I got to sit down with Rolend, one of the members of B4U, who just won the IVT Tournament. We talked a little bit about himself, about B4U as a team, and also about the tournaments. So, enjoy. I guess before, you should probably introduce yourself so that everyone who doesn't know who you are can know who you are.
Hi everyone, my name is Rolend. I've been playing Identity V for quite a while now. Last year I joined the team B4U to compete in regionals, qualifiers, and even the international COA V. I consider myself a rescue main. I like to play mercenary, gravekeeper, sometimes coordinator, but I also like to kite. And I'm a pretty big rank enthusiast, so if you see me in rank, I'll just say hello.
I don't ever play Survivor rank. I don't play much Survivor in general. I mostly play Hunter, but first of all, I don't have time. And then whenever I do have time, my ping is terrible, especially recently. I'll play 2 matches and it'll be like 150 is my average usually. Recently, it's been like 250.
I was just saying, I applaud you for persevering with the high ping. I understand, like, there was a moment when we were practicing for COA and stuff like that where we had to deal with high ping because we were playing against players from the other countries too. So
yep,
I definitely don't underestimate the challenges of that.
My first question is, for the Nightmare event, did you actually win against the Deception mode? Did you manage to complete it?
Right, yeah. So I remember playing it. I was very excited. It was a huge event for IDV, like a huge change. Me and my friends were super excited for it, and so we got on straight away. We played the first 3 difficulties, I think, because they were all like you just unlocked straight away, and then fortunately we had to wait for the 4th, the hardest difficulty to unlock. Yeah, it was definitely very cool that the devs were able to create an AI that was quite a challenge, even for like top players and stuff.
Yep.
So it was very interesting to see how it behaved and how we could develop strategies to counter it and things like that. I played with a bunch of random people on my team, and so we didn't from like the best strategy, but we still were able to win.
How long, or how many attempts do you think more or less it took you to actually get the first win?
I think having the previous difficulties, like having it slowly get harder and harder, was actually helpful, because like it takes a little bit of time to understand how the AI works, how to counter it, how to use pallets against it, things like that. So by the time we got to the hardest difficulty, I think we had some expectation already, so it took us maybe 2 tries. But yeah, nice. I can see how just depending on how much practice you have with even like other hunters too, because it can carry over. So
it also depends on like how well your team is good at communicating, like how good you are at communicating. Right. Now kind of going back a little bit to when you first started playing IDV, when did you first start playing it? Because I'm quite new, I would assume, compared to you.
Yeah, actually one of the original season 1 players, so that's
nice.
I want to say 2018. It's been on and off for me. Some months I play more, some months I take a break. But definitely having that original experience carries to my current competitive level, because like I've just put so many hours into it. Just understanding different strategies, how game flow works, mastering every survivor's abilities, things like that. All of that can definitely contribute to being able to play on a competitive level. Just the journey has been absolutely amazing. Like, I have to applaud NetEase for being able to come out with so many different crazy updates through the past 3 years.
Oh, that's true.
We got updates to the story, we got tons and tons of new characters, new maps, all these events. And even outside of the game, you can see things like art competitions, cosplay competitions, tournaments, all that kind of fun stuff that I really appreciate.
Yeah, we are starting to get a little bit more coming over our way now from China. How has the game changed since you first started playing?
Ooh, yeah, the game has changed quite a lot. I mean, back when it was originally released here, there was like 8 or 9 survivors and like 6 hunters, something like that. Tons of just different ways to play the game, different play styles. In terms of like mastering the game or getting better at the game, it's become harder, because you have to think about how to counter every single hunter, every single survivor. There's just a lot more possibilities when you're in the match. Different elements. You have like Toymaker who can fly. You got survivors that can heal each other across the map. We have portals. We have the new little girl can literally possess another survivor. It's like,
Yep.
it's crazy how many different concepts the designers can come up with.
Would you say that the core gameplay has kind of changed dramatically since the beginning?
Yeah, I would say you can kind of look at it from either maybe competitive side in the sense that
Yeah,
there's always new developing, new strategy developing. If you watch like the Chinese leagues, you can see like, sometimes they have a meta where it's like slower decoder, more rescuers, and sometimes they have a meta where it's just like faster decoders. The S tier hunters are always changing, and that just goes kind of with the introduction of new characters, the changes of different characters. And also, I think as more and more people play the game and understand, game flow, the dynamics of the game, when to rescue, when to try to switch ciphers, things like that. As with other games, the meta will change. Certain strategy will do better and worse as the seasons change.
So what would you say the current state is in like high tier and competitive?
I'd say we're in a constantly changing era, because they just added 3 new characters like in the span of 1 month. So it will be very, very interesting to see how those will impact the competitive scene, the higher tier scene. There's both positives and negatives. Obviously, the more ways to play the game, the more exciting it can be to new players or to people who prefer different styles. That's always good. But as with other games too, like when you add so many different characters, it can be almost challenging to find ways to deal with and kind of them all. Like you have to keep track of so many different strategies and so many different styles.
But that makes the game fresh in a way, because you now have to adjust. Okay, let's go to B4U. So how was B4U founded, or do you know that? And yeah, that kind of question.
I'd say Schmitty is our captain. He's been playing pretty much as long as me, so everyone on B4U has over a couple years of experience. Schmitty and a couple others, like my leg, they competed in the COA 2. So that was the first tournament, the first international tournament that our region, North America, Europe, had the chance to compete in.
Yeah.
So in a sense, they were kind of like pioneers for NAEU, and they had a lot of pressure. As time goes on, members change, swap in and swap out. But Schmitty and Milek they added Problems and a Hunter. I think originally it was 464 and then Spencer, and they had quite a good lineup. Unfortunately, COA 3 had issues with the quarantine, so weren't able to compete, but they still practiced. And then as they were preparing for COA 4, they added me to the roster. There's also Call Me Duty, Persuadable, well-known YouTuber. He was our coach, our advisor. He definitely meant a lot to us. The team's been changing as time goes on, but we really focus on preparing for the regionals and then qualifiers for every COA. And our plan is to do the same for COA 5 that is upcoming.
Yeah, I would say your current team's roster is pretty impressive. I'm very jealous of the skills of your hunters, for example.
Yes, I agree. Spencer is definitely proven that he is one of the top hunters for sure.
I guess the next question kind of leading up from that would be, Persuadable was your coach, yes, as I understand. How did that affect the team, and who's the coach now?
It's quite unfortunate that Persuadable decided to leave. It was, he made a public announcement about it, but he wasn't really satisfied with NetEase's decisions on our tournaments and things like that. We lost the summer tournament, which is like, we only get 1 tournament a year, so that was a little bit of frustrating, I can see. But yeah, he's been busying himself with other things, so that's good. We did make a few changes to the roster recently. I think we still, we're a family, so like we have all of our decisions and stuff are made communally, so we all talked about it and stuff like that, as with when Persuade was there too. We haven't really decided to like replace Persuade in a sense. I'm not sure if we ever will, but we are doing well, preparing, and we don't really have any concerns as of now. Just focused on practicing, developing strategies, and being ready for COA 5. Yeah. So
you would say like the team dynamic kind of works pretty fluidly, and you don't really need someone who's calling the shots, because you guys all kind of bounce ideas off of each other, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Leading into the team dynamic, I'm something that I'm interested in personally, and I'm sure that the rest of the people listening would be interested in. How do you guys prepare for a tournament? You know, practice and stuff like that. How does that work?
We do pretty much the expected thing. I mean, we meet up and we just go into a custom match. We decide, you know, kind of what we want to practice for the night. So it could be like round 1 strategies, round 2 strategies, or just like specifically different things like not rescuing in order to go for the tie, determining that we need to get 3 out, 3 survivors escaped, something like that. And then as it's interesting because Identity 5 is an asymmetrical game, so we'll have, you know, we have our set hunters. So right now they are Spencer, Ching, and Pit Stoppers. So they're kind of like on a little rotation for us to practice against, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, so we're able to practice our hunters against our survivors, and we just flip up the strategies every time just to keep things fresh and exciting. And it's all about repetitions, communication, developing bonds, and trying to figure out what strategies work, what combinations work, and what doesn't.
How do you practice for like each round specifically? Because you said you mentioned like how you do practice for like round 1s and round 2. Obviously, it depends on the bans, right? Because you're planning on like what kind of character we're going to ban for this place.
So it all depends on how the tournament rules work. And usually for official tournaments, with every later round, it adds an extra ban for both survivors and hunters. In addition to that, there's also a different map. And depending on a coin flip, either Team A or Team B will be choosing the map. So usually how that works is round 1 has the fewest bans. It's basically when all the S tier characters are picked and like all the strongest strategies are picked out. And the map will usually be a map that, you know, both the team's survivor is good at and the team's hunter is good at, right? Because you can't just be picking survivor-sided maps or hunter-sided maps the entire time. Otherwise, one side will struggle. So round 1's also arguably the most crucial because it's, you know, the first match kind of decides the flow of the next few rounds.
Yeah, no limitations for either side.
So it can be very competitive, very, very close. And then later, as you get on with more bans and kind of more or like less popular maps in a sense, more strategies will develop. You know, I've seen teams bring out like Toymaker, Postman, Acrobat. If you had a tier list, you'd be slowly going down the tier list just a bit, just because of the bans.
Walk me through what happens right before you guys play a tournament match. How do you guys psych each other up to start? You know, how do you guys practice? What do you guys do? If you're allowed to tell me that, it could be secret information.
I don't think it's a secret, but it's funny because it really depends on, I think, just like our mood. Like if we're competing against, if we know that our next match is going to be really difficult, really close, if the other team is going to be, you know, really strong, we're talking about like finals, semifinals, things like that. There's a lot of pressure. I mean, like just like everyone else, we're going to be nervous. We're going to think like, oh no, there's so many people watching. What if I mess up? You know, everyone's going to hate me, things like that. So it can be quite tense, but we try our best to relax. You know, we obviously get some matches in, warm up, try to stay positive, you know, words of encouragement, make each other laugh, make sure that we're a team, we're a family, and that we support each other so that going into the match that we feel as confident and as relaxed as we can.
We already kind of touched upon this already, but like, how was IVT for you specifically? From what I remember, you didn't participate too much, right?
For me personally, I think we had really good results. I was very happy with everyone's performance. I think everyone on the team had their highlight moments. Great kites, great rescues, just like good plays. Good decision making. Everyone had their positive moments to look back on and be happy about. So I think everyone had moments of growth too. So everyone improved in a way, or definitely showed that as a team, we showed that all our practicing beforehand paid off, and we got the results we wanted. I didn't play too much, and I'm perfectly fine with that because I think
of course,
our kind of new roster with the addition of cats and things like that is really, really strong, and they were performing extraordinary the first few rounds of the tournament. So in a sense, they had the flow going on, and that worked with me and that worked with them. So
I guess it's good that the bigger the roster that you have, the more flexibility you guys have, right? Because
yes,
one of you is busy or just not up to it, or also like if the map itself is not one that you're kind of like super good at, but somebody else in your team is like really confident on that map, or with a certain kind of team comp that you guys have kind of planned ahead of time. Yeah, it kind of gives you guys more flexibility. Give me the teams that you consider to be the strongest globally. I mean, from, you know, China included. Which teams do you think are the strongest, and which teams are you afraid of going against? Go.
perfect question actually, because I was just about to add, kind of tied to the last question, but our finals match for ICT against Fusion was really, I mean, it went to 5 rounds. It was really close, really intense, impactful, and I just want to again applaud Fusion for doing so well. You just mentioned this about having like extra subs and things like that to have more variety, to deal with more different situations. And they actually only had 5 members, so they were playing the entire time. You know, they didn't really have breaks. They played the semi-final match too, just beforehand.
That's
true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I really applaud them. Really impressed that they were able to keep up their, you know, mental strength and compete level with us the entire time, the 5 rounds. So yeah, so Fusion is definitely on our radar.
Cool.
They were very competitive with us, and I'm sure they will continue to get better as we do, and as we're both preparing for COA 5. Just this past tournament just showed that there's a bunch of other great teams too. Legacy we played against, ICT we played against, and then Eden we didn't play against because they were knocked down the other side. But I think a match against Eden will be very exciting too as well. So I think NAU has a lot of great teams. Yeah, as for other regions, I mean, it's just the fact that the Chinese leagues are just the top of the top. They, you know, they have organizations supporting them so that they can have, you know, hours and hours of practice time. They have a great environment. They have coaches. All those things like that can really add up to just the top of the top performance. And so, and you can see that through clips of their matches, their ICLs, things like that. IVL, sorry. We will deal with the qualifiers, and then we'll get to competing in other regions. That as a group, we study a lot of the film. We just study their matches too to get ideas and develop strategies. And I mean, like I said, they're all great, but I would like to point out Dao5's Hunter DX is probably the best Hunter.
Famous.
Ever play. Yeah, absolutely famous. Plays a great Dream Witch, Breaking Wheel, Sculptor, that kind of thing. In general, the Chinese teams are like neck and neck, and sometimes, I mean, I feel like they're constantly like switching places on the leaderboards. So it's like, it's very crazy how close they can be, how competitive and how intense their matches can be. So I mean, ZQ is doing really well. They're survivors.
What does the future look like for B4U as a team?
So in a sense, all our goals and stuff rotate around COA, so COA 5 right now. And it's not just about, you know, getting to COA and playing in COA. We also think a lot about representing NAU, because as we've talked about, the game is huge in China, Japan, things like that, and they get a lot of attention there, which is awesome. One of the things that we want to do as a team representing NAU is we want to kind of show NetEase that we can get some of that too. We can get some of that attention too. Like we're strong enough, we're competing hard enough, we're working hard enough, we have enough players for that kind of thing. And we've been trying really hard for that.
Okay, do you see yourself playing the game 2-3 years from now?
Yeah, that's a tough question, because I think it's hard to see that much into the future with such a changing environment. This game is constantly changing. We're getting more or less tournaments, things like that. Yeah, and then there's always the other part of our lives that we have to take care of offline, where we have to focus on, you know, school, work, things like that, activities. So COA 5, I will definitely commit as much as I can to practicing, ranking, preparing. But as for after that, I think it will depend on like how the environment changes in popularity in the NAU. So that would be very promising. That'd be very exciting.
It'd be nice if we could move into a competitive scene where sponsors are involved. Yeah, that's where, you know, you guys can make a proper living from it. That would be kind of nice. Who would you like to shout out, and is there anything else you'd like to say?
I actually have someone to shout out in mind. Recently, I mean, as with all tournaments, we've been receiving lots of support from just fans and people who watch our games, which, I mean, I can't thank them enough. Like, it really means a lot to us to know that as a team that we have people that are, you know, excited to watch us play, happy when we're happy. Support can go a long way, and it can never be appreciated enough. And so certain people on my team like Schmitty or Problems, they have like their own YouTube channels and they stream content and things like that. So it's always exciting to see people show up for that and, you know, in a sense, play with us and, you know, interact
And be
with us.
invested in it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, be invested in us. And yeah, we appreciate all that. I would like to thank them again. In general, just anyone watching the tournament. I mean, it wouldn't really be a tournament without viewers, without fans hyping up teams, you know, getting excited, all the great moments. You know, I've seen people make clips and like little edits of the highlights of the tournament. So those are always fun to look back on.
Yep.